Today I'm presenting on taking your mind off of a crisis, distraction as an effective coping strategy during the COVID-19 pandemic. In general, some change is good, but when experiencing excessive change, people tend to become more angry, grumpy, and withdrawn. Additionally, isolation and loneliness have been constantly linked to negative cardiovascular and mental health outcomes. COVID-19 has created the perfect storm. So how do we best cope? The two different types of coping subcategories that we focused on here is distraction and avoidance. Distraction is taking a break to do something pleasant with the intention of returning to the stressor at a later time, while avoidance is taking my mind off my problems with no intentions of returning. In our lab's previous research, we have demonstrated that these two different coping strategies, despite being commonly grouped together, lead to drastically different psychological results, especially in terms of situations with high levels of uncertainty or lack of control. Therefore, we hypothesized that when controlling for avoidance, distraction would be an effective coping strategy during the COVID-19 pandemic. Participants were recruited using Qualtrics panels, in which potential participants have already agreed to be a part of an online panel for sharing their thoughts and opinions for research. Participants completed a variety of surveys, but for the sake of this short presentation, we are just focusing on the daily reconstruction method, which we call DRM. We analyzed data from everyone's first complete DRM. This represents a day in the life of people during COVID. The final DRM sample size was 329 participants. Participants completed the DRM entry at the end of the day, sometime after dinner but before bedtime. They were asked to reconstruct their day as if they were writing in a diary. They listed each episode up to 10 that occurred in the morning, afternoon, and evening. For each episode, participants indicated what activity they were doing, their emotions, how stressed and in control of their feelings they felt, and how often they thought about COVID. On average, people distracted themselves on 14.7% of their episodes and used avoidance on 6.5%. Participants distracted themselves the most by going on the computer, watching TV, dining, exercising, and using social media. Participants avoided the coronavirus the most by going on the computer, watching TV, playing a game, using social media, and reading. As you can see in these pie charts, participants used very similar activities to either distract themselves or avoid thinking about COVID. We next conducted separate multi-level models with episode distraction and episode avoidance as predictors of episode-related positive emotions, negative emotions, stress, control of feelings, and thinking about COVID. We found within subject increases in distraction or avoidance predicted increased positive emotion and control of feelings, and decreased negative emotions, stress, and thinking about COVID. We also examined whether any of the activities in particular predicted within-person changes in emotions. You can see here that the individual activity relationships are not as strong as the relationships seen in the previous slide. Although there were some relationships here and there, none of the activities showed the same pattern or strength of relationships with emotion outcomes as were shown with distraction and avoidance. Overall, we found distraction as a possible adaptive coping strategy when dealing with the stress of COVID-19, along with avoidance, but to a lesser extent. We found that within subject increases in distraction or avoidance predicted increased positive emotion and control of feelings, and decreased negative emotions, stress, and thinking about COVID. Distraction when engaging in activities predicted much higher relationships with good outcomes than did engaging in any particular activity. This means that when trying to deal with stressors with high levels of uncertainty, we need to focus on our intentions for our coping strategies. Why is more important than what you do. I hope that you can take this and apply it to your daily life right now and try and increase your positive emotions, control of feelings, and decrease your negative emotions, stress, and how often you think about COVID. Thank you so much for your time.